Wow, the Trans-Pacific Partnership is being negotiated as we speak by a group of unknown, unnamed, well, we're starting to find out, corporations. We're going to, actually, Lori Wallach is going to drop by tonight on the TV show, and in a few minutes I'm going to just give you a general rant about it. This is, well, the issue of sovereignty. I want to get to that. Meanwhile, though, this is incredible. This is kind of breaking news. Rob Portman. Now, Rob Portman, you know, he's like, oh, he's one of those reasonable Republicans, right? There ain't no such thing. Reasonable Republicans. Yesterday, I was sharing with you clips from their pieces of the 1956 Republican Party platform. Remember their party platform in which they quoted President Dwight Eisenhower as saying, "Labor is America. The people who make things are the ones who create the national wealth. Labor is America." Yeah, that 1956 Republican Party that you know, the only two presidents in the last 100 years to get elected and reelected with more than 51% of the vote, Barack Obama, Dwight Eisenhower. That 1956 election, Republican Party election that said, yeah, we have bragged that they had expanded Social Security, that bragged that they had expanded the number of people who were on the minimum wage, that bragged that they had increased Social Security benefits. So you say Rob Portman and you think, oh, yeah, he's a reasonable Republican. No, there's no such thing. The first thing a Republican votes for when they get into the House or Senate is the leadership. And the leadership that Rob Portman and all of them have voted for is Mitch McConnell, who's a crazy guy. In fact, Ashley Judd in Kentucky. And I know that we've got people listening to us on Sirius XM and watching us on Free Speech TV, on Dish and Direct TV in Kentucky, who are, somewhat familiar with this. Mitch McConnell is your senator. He's up for re-election in 2 years. Ashley Judd is a good progressive. She's thinking of running against him. You think there's any chance she'd win? If you're from Kentucky, give us a call at 866-987-THOM. I'm curious your take on it. Whether, or is it just going to be, she's a Hollywood liberal. You know, she might have been born here, but, that kind of thing. I don't know. But anyhow, back to Rob Portman. He was speaking today at a gig put on by the Heritage Foundation. And they invited the public in, which is a dangerous thing to do for Republicans. So, a little ways into this thing, some people in the audience started standing up going, why is John Boehner and why are you and Mitch McConnell, why are you guys trying to raise the retirement age on Medicare from 65 to 67? This is what John Boehner said yesterday that the Republicans want to do to, that President Obama says we're going to tax rich people more and says to the Republicans, okay, what are you guys going to do? And they said, okay, we want to raise the retirement age on people the eligibility age for Medicare from 65 to 67. And we're going to change the way we calculate the cost of living adjustments for Social Security so that over the next 10, 15, 20 years, every year, because of inflation, senior citizens will get, 0.5%, 1%, 2% cut in their Social Security benefits. Right. That's going over really, really well. And so for 5 minutes, these people were heckling him mercilessly. I mean, Mr. Senator Portman, tell us what why... And finally, this guy from the Heritage Foundation just loses it. Here he is.
No. I was invited on this panel.
Not everything always goes your way just because you got all the money and power in the world. It doesn't always go your way.
Are screwing up things for my kids.
And these are the real people. Yeah, not the millionaires.
I'm not.
These people are screwing up things for my kids. In other words, they're hurting his paycheck, right? He's there from the Heritage Foundation, damn it, and he's paid to be there, and he wants to give his speech. And Senator Portman, this is going to be really interesting. In fact, if you're from Ohio and Senator Portman represents you, you might want to call and ask him if he wants to continue being a Republican. You going to stay with that party that says, hey, let's cut Medicare, let's cut Medicaid? In fact, you're going to stay with that party now, and truth be told, we got to keep the Democrats clean on this, too, that says sovereignty? We don't need those thinking sovereignty. Americans used to care a lot about national sovereignty. That includes the right of our nation to do things, particularly domestic, that are in our own best interest. and the right of our country to not be forced to do things that hurt us. For generations, conservatives have ranted about, back after World War I, it was the League of Nations. Oh, the League of Nations, this was Woodrow Wilson's big dream, the League of Nations. Sorry, he couldn't get it through Congress to join the League of Nations. And then because the U.S. wasn't a member, the League of Nations died in the early 40s. Or no, it wasn't the 40s. It was the 30s the League of Nations dies. So then came the United Nations. And the conservatives have been screaming about the UN. When we signed those treaties that make up our UN membership, they forbid us from going to war unless we're attacked or we have proof of an imminent attack or we get approval of the UN. You got to go to the UN for approval. They're right. We did give up a small bit of sovereignty in joining the UN. We did agree that we would not drop bombs on countries unless they actually attacked us or we could prove they were about to. In fact, George Bush broke that agreement. He got the UN to retroactively, 6 months after he invaded Iraq, retroactively approve it, which is like, talk about pretzel twisting. Every country, though, that's a UN member has to abide by the same rules. And world peace is, frankly, a pretty big deal. But what about surrendering our national sovereignty just so a few thousand transnational corporations and their billionaire CEOs can make more bucks? That sounds nuts to me. But it might be on its way. Back in the 1930s, when FDR pushed through Congress the Buy American Act, which by the way, it's still in the books, requires the federal government to look for American manufacturers first when buying anything for federal government use. Nobody ever imagined in 1935 when that thing was passed, or 33, I think it was, that a German or Japanese or Mexican or Chinese corporation could force our Congress to kill a bill. FDR's bill passed. It's still part of our laws. But if the big transnational corporations get their way in these Trans-Pacific Partnership talks, the TPP is going to kill the Buy American laws. It's either neuter them or just kill them right out. We used to think we could regulate our banksters. Reagan sent 600 of them to jail in the SNL scandal. But since then, we pretty much haven't done a particularly good job of regulating the banks. We still have some regulations on the books. And Elizabeth Warren, this morning, it was announced she's going to be on the banking committee in the Senate. So there's some hope. But the TPP and the 10 or so nations that make up the partnership could end that too. That's mostly several hundred corporations, handful of nations. We used to think that we could require corporations to not pollute our air and water, not poison our food. Transnational corporations didn't like those rules, so they said, no, that reduces profits. We're going to do away with that in the TPP. This is a bigger deal than the UN ever was. If we're going to exist as a sovereign nation, we have to be able to set the standards for trade, food, air, water, and the other essentials that our citizens want. But these giant corporations, and some of them are actually state-owned corporations. You got countries, where much of the corporate activity is actually owned by the state. They're openly operating in the interests of other nations, and they don't want us to be the masters of our own destiny. They want that power for themselves.